Well, it's one of these videos. I finally got an idea of what to talk about since I've been trying to think of something Doom related, but I just couldn't think of one. But I finally have a topic to talk about. So, I'm going to talk about a bunch of gossip of Doom 2016 from what I've been seeing from the internet, and I'm just going to cover the ones that really matter since there's a couple of topics that just feel rather dumb for me to talk about, like how it feels too modern or people not liking the player model or enemy model, stuff like that. I'm not going to cover that type of stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about is the color usage. Doom's been getting criticized for not having enough colors, like too much orange or brown, and I can totally understand hell isn't that wicked or evil enough to some people. Like, I personally feel like the brown color they use, or how they simply just use too much of it, it just doesn't really make it that interesting to the eyes. However, I still think it's too early to say Doom is not colorful enough, and even if the game might not be the most colorful shooter, it can still get a 10 out of 10 from me as long the combat sections and level design is good enough. For example, I feel like both the original Quake and Resistance Fall of Man made up its lack of interesting or varied colors by having great combat sections, or the pacing just feels good. So that's one, and the next thing I want to talk about is the health pickup system. You know, how you have to kill enemies to pick up health points or whatever. So I don't know why people are so concerned about this. Like, some people think it'll make the game too easy, which I still have yet to find a reason of how it will make the game easy. I think it might be more of a challenge than the traditional health pickup system, because you're not going to know who's going to drop the right amount of health packs, and who knows, it can probably troll you by putting you in a very tough fight and neither of the enemies drop any health points. I think this is a really interesting concept that id is using, and I think it will make the combat feel very fresh compared to previous Doom games. Since I talked a little bit about difficulty in that section, I want to talk about nightmare difficulty in this game. So I've been hearing that this game is going to be like, you're gonna die so easily, like one hit you're dead or whatever, but I think it is being over exaggerated. I don't think the entire game is gonna be like that. I remember when Bungie talked about ODST was going to be the hardest Halo game because you're not a Spartan anymore, so you're not as strong as them, and you have to rely on health packs and so on. But you can ask any die-hard Halo fans, they're going to tell you that ODST was the easiest Halo game on legendary difficulty without a doubt. So I don't really know if this game will be as tough as it claims it to be, but as long as it's not like Rage, where I felt like I didn't have any tension, because you could totally destroy the game's difficulty by buying a bunch of med packs or buying all the powerful ammo types or gadgets, which really makes the game a joke in terms of difficulty. But I do believe one-hit kills are going to be possible for sure. I mean, in Doom 1 and 2, you could die by a Cyber Demon in one hit if you didn't have enough health and armor. My dream nightmare difficulty is basically ultra violence with additional features. Let's be honest here, nightmare difficulty in classic Doom, it's never really been looked as the quote-unquote true hardest difficulty in classic Doom, since it just added that difficulty as a joke. And while it is beatable, definitely, it doesn't really play that well and just not as smooth as ultra violence. Killing isn't satisfying, and there's definitely a lot of randomness, which just makes it annoying and just not that replayable unless you want to like speedrun it. But when it comes to normal playing, it's just a chore and a mess. Doom 3's nightmare difficulty, I didn't really like the whole Soul Cube start thing. It just felt awkward and it just didn't feel right, which is why I never really beaten it. But I heard it's very similar to a veteran difficulty, where it's harder than that, but it's also easier too. So when it comes to my wants and needs for nightmare difficulty in Doom 2016, I definitely want more enemies on screen, enemies being more aggressive, like the fast monster parameter, more damage and health for the enemies. I believe making enemies dropping lesser health or ammo would be interesting. And last but not least, I really want to see this feature being relevant again, and that is exclusive features. So in Doom 2, if you played Ultra Violence, you don't have 4 invulnerabilities on map 30, which really does complicate things, unlike on Hurt Me Plenty. That kind of stuff. I really want to see, more shooters using this kind of feature, since it seems like nowadays it's pretty much the traditional way to have more health and damage when it comes to difficulty differences. So that concludes my talk for the difficulty, and the next talk is the focus on consoles. So people are blaming on consoles for specific things like the two weapons feature in multiplayer, or how it isn't fast enough or whatever. So I can totally see why people would blame on consoles for the two weapons limit, since that feature, it totally fits well on a console controller, but it already confirmed the whole weapon wheel is very optional. So I guess that means there is the traditional quote unquote this button will give you that weapon format. I kind of laugh at the whole idea that Doom 2016 isn't fast enough because of the focus on consoles, but then again, what about Doom 3? Doom 3 was primarily designed for the PC, and it wasn't as fast as, Doom 2016, so yeah. I really don't see why people would say that, and to be honest, Doom, even though it's like, a game that's designed for the PC, it really is a fairly console-friendly game. For example, the mechanics are very simple. It's not like Duke 3D, where Duke 3D has a lot more weapons, and there's also the portable items, which does complicate the button mapping for a controller, but for Doom, it's not really as complex as that game, so it actually does work fairly well. I also want to say that, games that are designed for a PC or console, they can still be ported to their opposite platform and still be played very smoothly if it's taken with good care. So last but not least, I'm going to talk about mod tools, which has been a fairly hefty subject to talk about. So there's been rumors that this game won't feature mod tools because Pete Hines did an interview with Game Trailers and he said there won't be mod tools. However, I actually did see the QuakeCon livestream for the Doom panel. It actually confirmed that they will release mod tools at a later date. So I don't know what to believe, and it's just going back and forth really. But I will say this: if the game doesn't have mod tools, I don't think there won't be any replay value, since Pete Hines said Snap Map is almost like Minecraft, so I'm curious to see how powerful it is, although I was really disappointed to hear that it won't have any outdoor environments, but I still think it's nice to have this feature, and I'm sure there could be some interesting stuff being made from the community. If the game does have mod tools, that would be great. I would love to see what the community can create, but at the same time, for people who are really expecting these tools to give you the same amount of content as classic Doom is definitely not being realistic enough. I'm no expert in this field, but I do know a lot of modern FPS mod tools are generally not as easy compared to Doom Builder. I also want to talk a little bit about Rage. So Rage actually had mod tools. I remember there was a time where id was being fairly indecisive whether they should release it to the public, but they eventually did, and there's not really much of a modding scene going on for Rage, so I guess it's because the tools were just too complex for the modders to play around with. So what that means is Doom could fall in the same fate as Rage. I know a lot of people are going to feel like this game will have zero replay value because of the lack of mod tools, but at the same time, I think it is going to deliver a lot of content in this game, and I do believe there will be a lot of reasons to come back and play this game. Matter of fact, I think people are just spoiled at times. Like, I remember when I didn't know anything about the mod scene for Doom, and I was broke too, man. So I could only play the games that, I'd beaten, and that was really all I could, play. I didn't find it tormenting or, annoying to play Doom 1 and Doom 2 over again. I learned different ways to play the game. I loved pistol starting, and I just loved how the more I played, the better and educated I got at the game. It felt right and good because I loved what Doom 1 and 2 gave me right out of the box. So it's just kind of ridiculous to see people, not really enjoying the game for what it is. But anyways, that's really all I gotta say for the video. And if you got any comments, please share them with me, and I'll answer them if I can. Thank you for watching.